On guys, Caleb here, and this is episode 1 of Metalhead Central. Now this is a new show where, just like I've been doing on this channel, we will be doing metal and hard rock album reviews. However, I'll also be doing some videos on where I feel like metal is headed as a genre, and I'll be doing some things on different bands sort of in a nutshell, like band histories, members of a band, rock, legends, stuff like that. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get to it. The first album this week that I took a listen to was Alice in Chains' new one, Rainier Fog. Now, I read on Genius's website that the title of this album was actually inspired by the fog that hangs around Mount Rainier in the band's home state of Washington. Now, it was released last Friday, and got through the album, and it left me with a lot of questions. Now, first of all, this sounds like Alice in Chains. So, for any of you wondering out there, does this actually sound like Alice in Chains? Yeah, it sounds like Alice in Chains. However, it is a tale of two halves. The first half of the album was fantastic. It was like a very wonderful walk through a hazy mountain landscape, something like you might find on Mount Rainier, with certain areas exhibiting the characteristics of this really gentle rain falling, which is just wonderful, and other areas exuding more severe weather, if I could put it that way, more of like a punch. It was excellent. Now, the single off the album, the one which has been charting in America, was a great single off the album. Catchy chorus, interesting lyrical work about an imposter. Just really, really good stuff from the band there. The rest of the first half was just as good, but, I think my favorite song off the album was Drone. It was such a different take on grunge itself that it pulled me in. It didn't sound anything like really any of their earlier work, or Nirvana, or Soundgarden. It sounded like they took a giant jazz band and threw grunge guitars in with it, and it works. It was a fantastic, fantastic song. Then the second half of the album hit, and it wasn't anywhere near as good as the first half of the album. The sixth track on the album, Deaf Ears, Blind Eyes, really, really lost me. Then they tried to make up for it through the tracks Maybe and So Far Under, but it didn't really work. The first half of the album was made up of these really memorable songs, but the second half was just kind of forgettable. Now, that's not to say that it was so bland that it wasn't music or that grunge fans wouldn't enjoy it, but it just really didn't leave an impact on me personally. Like I said, this was a tale of two halves. The first half was amazing, wonderful, and could have stood on its own as either an EP or maybe even another album, something like what Between the Buried and Me did this year, releasing the first half of the album as its own thing, and then waiting a couple of months and then releasing the second half. The other half of Rainier Fog was just kind of boring, forgettable, and it was really a big shame because of what the first 5 songs on this album did for me. Overall, this wasn't the band's best work. It wasn't their worst work. I have a feeling that Rainier Fog, down the road, is just going to be the album that's just kind of there in Alice in Chains' discography. For me, I'm giving it a 75 out of 100 on the YPS scale. And here we go with a band that made me nearly leap for joy with the single, and the rest of the album was just as good. There was really only one misstep in the set of 6 songs that made up Ancestor's new album, Suspended in Reflections, and that was a track called Lying in the Grass, and even that one wasn't too terrible. This is a definite Album of the Year contender. It has just this gorgeous riffing and this beautiful musicianship across the entire album. The songs on the album, they play with your ears very softly in parts, and then they go after you with this more aggressive stuff. Now, it's not so aggressive that it's like death metal, but it is way more aggressive than the softer, lighter parts of the album. For instance, there is a song called Release on the album that it actually begins with the end of the previous track. Now, the previous track was a bit heavier, and it was really, really good. So that sort of bleeds over into this track before it just cuts completely in the middle of the track to a soft piano. That's it. Everything just cuts out, and all you hear is just this piano playing. And it works. It really, really works. Another thing on the album that I loved, the entire thing flows together so well. One song blends with another until you feel as if you're listening to one cohesive track, not 6 separate ones. It works, and it works well. It's not perfect, but it is definitely up there and a contender for my album of the year. Now, then there was the track Lying in the Grass. This was my least favorite song on the album. It wasn't really a bad song. It was kind of like the second half of Rainier Fog. It was just sort of bland. It was really forgettable. It didn't stick with me like the other 5 tracks did. It was basically over and done and out of my mind before I could even think about doing anything else with it. That's sad, because it mars an otherwise beautifully crafted album of doom-ish, post-metal-ish, sludge-ish music. It's really sort of genre-defying. This is really an amazing album to dig into, and this being my first exposure to the band Ancestors, I definitely think I'll be checking out some of their other music. Suspended in Reflections gets a 90 out of 100 on the YPS scale. So, this has been episode 1 of Metalhead Central. As you can see, we're following a bit of the same review format. We're going to be doing some different stuff as well. But last week, I promised you all changes were coming to the channel, and here they are. Now, we do have an accompanying Facebook page of the same name where this is going to be posted as well as all of the other videos. So, if you have the time, and if you're on Facebook, go ahead and go search for Metalhead Central. Give us a like, comment on it, and we'll see where it goes from there. Also, be sure to smash that like button below this video and subscribe here for more Metalhead Central content. Next week, another double review, guys. I'll be taking a listen to Omnium Gatherum's new album. From what I hear, they sound a little like Soilwork, and Soilwork is one of my favorite bands, so we'll just have to see. Hopefully they put out a good album. I'll also be listening to an album by a band that I had never heard of. The band Thou released a new album, and I'll be checking them out next week. And then the following week, Pig Destroyer. They've got their new album coming out, so that should be fun to review. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.